not enough time. So what do we have to do in the current assignment? Well, we've done a lot of this already in class. We've got a static method that tells you whether it's a leap year. We have instance variables for month, day, and year. We've done that. We have a constructor that sets the new date object to a specific month, day, and year. We've got that. Method for converting a date to a string. Yep. Given a month number and a year, returns the number of days. We were working on that last time. I had a lot of problems with mine, but we got it fixed finally, and then we got what we needed. The static method that translates the month number into a string. Yeah, we got that. Static method that translates the month string into a number. We have that too. A method that returns how many days since the start of the year for an object. Get day and year. Do we have this? No, I don't think so. We haven't made a method yet. We've got something called, well, maybe we do have a get day and year. I know we have something like that, so we'll have to look. And then a method that returns the number of days since between this date and another date. We haven't done that one yet, but luckily it's pretty straightforward. We're going to use Jacob's solution. That seemed to be the best one that I've seen. So if you wouldn't mind, Jacob, I'm going to show them the same idea that you came up with. And then a tester class that tests all these methods. So let's go look at the last step then. Well, almost last step. I always say that it's last step and there's always another step. Zoom out a bit so we can see. And I'm going to my date class. Hopefully I'm sharing my screen. Oh, the chat is going. I'm not watching the chat. Let's see. Yeah, Leilani, that's possible to reopen them if you'd like. And then yeah, this would be at the question Luis is asking is this the grade right now or at the end of the week? And what I'm saying is the grades aren't up to date, so they will be up to date on Saturday, so you can see where you are, and then if you need to do more, then you can do more on Saturday and Sunday. And again, I'll accept that all the way till Sunday night. So, but if you have an A sitting there, then you don't have to do anything more. All right. So looking at our dates. All right. So here is where we left it last time. One thing we don't have is, let's see, we did our get Julian date. So that's exactly the same thing as get days in year, or get day in year, I think it was called. Yeah, I'm saying that if you already have an A, I'll grade it for you still, and I'll take a look at it, but it's not going to change your grade, because if I say that it's not there or it's missing, right? You haven't turned it in at the time I do the grades Friday night, let's say. And then you get to Saturday and you see you have an A even without the day class, then you don't have to turn it in. You can, but you don't have to. Yeah, so this is just one method. I would turn it in if you have it done, so it'd be kind of cool to just finish it. And then we're going to use it for something here at the end, so it might be fun to get it done. So we have get day and year. This is the same thing as a get Julian date. So I think we called it get Julian date because I think it's called that here. Yeah, get Julian date in the tester. So that's why it has that name. So maybe the assignment's a little bit out of whack there. Okay, so so the last one then is days between. We're trying to figure out how many days are between two dates. This date, this object, to some other date object. So you pass that other date object in as a parameter, and then you compare the two and see the difference. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to kind of eat our own dog food, which means we're going to have to call get Julian date on both of them, and then subtract one from the other, and then see the difference between the two, and then return that. So let's try that. Instead of returning -1, this is going to return the number of days between. And one caveat, there's a limitation to this function. Both dates have to be in the same year. Okay. So what's the first thing we do? Well, we would say, well, let's get this. So we'll call it we'll call it this date. Well, I guess we don't have to say this date. We'll say int this day in year. So for this object, so we have one of those, and we're only counting whole days, so we're going to use integers for this. And then we'll have another one for other day in year. So which day in the year is it for the other thing? That's where we have to store it. How do we figure this out? Well, we can just say this day in year equals, and then we just call it, we call get Julian date. And does it take any parameters? And we see that it doesn't. It returns an int, and that's what we're going to store this day and year. So for this object, we can just say get Julian date. But what about the other object? Well, we would say, well, other day in year. Now we don't want to call get Julian date on this object. We want to call it on that other date object that's coming in. So we say other dot get Julian date. So now we have the day and year for this object. We have the day and year for this other object, and now we can just subtract them, right? So we can say this. Well, first we create a variable difference. And we can then say difference equals this day in year, and we subtract other day in year. See that? And that'll give us the difference. But the problem is, notice that we didn't check to see which one's greater than the other. Like say if this date is December 25th of maybe this year, and the other date is January 1st of this year, we'll get a positive number. But if we switch the two, then we'll get a negative number. It'll still be the same difference. It'll just be positive or negative depending on which one you put in as this one and what you put in as the other one. So we only care about the difference between them, so we don't want to get a negative number out of this. So what we do is we would return the absolute value of that. So remember, to do things like absolute value and all those math things, we use the math class, math.absolute value, and then we just pass in the difference. And that's what we return. Okay. And that will tell us the number of days between. Now it's complaining why. Sure, Java to do loading. Not sure what that means. Okay, so here's our days between function. Let's see if it actually works. So I'm going to run our test program. Remember our test program near the bottom, it says we want to figure out the number of days between the first day of the year, by year start, and today's date, or whatever date we type in, I guess, date 1. So we use today's date, and we'll try to figure that out. Okay, so I enter the month number. Today is this June. It's the 17th, 2021. And we hit enter. Hang on just a moment. Renee?
Is Jackson?
Jackson. Right, sorry for the delay. So we put in our date, that's today's date. It tells us it's not a leap year, but the days between January 1st and the date enters 167. That's about halfway through the year, right? We got 365 days divided by 2, right? It's, I don't know, about 180 days, right? And so we're a little bit less than halfway through. I don't know if that number is correct, though. It'd be nice to count it up and see. Usually when you do a test class, you try to figure out, and it says the number of the month is -1. It's because I haven't put June in any of the translation functions. I want you to do that yourself. But this seems plausible, right? But say we want to figure out how many days of summer we have. Well, first we need a calendar. When does school start next year? Where did I put that? Create this website. It's got all the calendars on it. Here's a calendar for next school year. Finally been finalized. And when do we start? It looks like first day of school is, boy, really? Look how late the school year starts. I like that. Our first day of school is Wednesday, September 8th. Cool. So now we have a date. That's our first day of school. So how many days are between now and Wednesday, September 8th? Well, let's try it. I lost my Replit page. Yeah, so we, in our tester then, let's ask another question. We'll say date today equals new date. And today's date is 6. Well, what's the order? A lot of us have made this mistake as we got the month, day, year kind of mixed up. Got to look at the order that goes into the constructor. Here's the day constructor. It's day, month, year. It's not month, day, year. Okay, so we got to do that. Day, well, the day today is 17. The month is 6. And the year is 2021. So that's today's date. It doesn't like this. Why? Date int is not defined. I'm not sure why it's complaining. Let's see. Our constructor says int date. Yeah, it's there. Why is it complaining? Date today equals new date. It thinks there's a parenthesis right there. I wonder why it's confused. Just try typing it in again. 17, 6, 2021, semicolon. Yeah, I don't know. I'll compile it and try to figure out why it's complaining. Okay. And then we're trying to find out the number of days between. So we say int, we'll call it days of summer. How many days of summer do we have? We'll create that and we'll set that to today. And then the date that we passed in, well, let's create that other day. Date, end, well, first day of school, let's say. Equals new date. Maybe it'll take it this time. And then what did we say? We said it was the 8th. What was it, the 8th? Can't remember now. Anyone help me out? Was it September 8th? Or first day of school? Or was it the 6th? I don't want to have to look at the calendar again. I guess I have to look at the calendar again. get interrupted, and then I can't remember anything. Looking at. We'll look at that calendar one more time because I want to get this right. I don't want to shortchange ours. So our first day of school is, yeah, it's the 8th. Okay, so we would say 8, and then 9 is the month in the year 2021. And then we say today dot, oh, finally our list. Days between, and we pass in first day of school object, which is another data object. And it will tell us how many number of days there are. And then we can do a system out that print line thing to tell us how many days of summer we have. So let's look at that. Is between number, let's see, number of days in the summer break. Okay, and then we'll instead of days between here, we'll say we'll call it days of summer. Summer. And I'll print that out. We just paste it at the end of that line. So now we should know from today's date. I guess this doesn't matter, but today's the 17th, 2021. And it looks like the number of days we have in spring break are 83. Okay, so we have 83 days of summer. Now, is that correct? Look at our calendar. Here's a calendar. We'll look there. So I guess summer for everyone. Well, that's I put in today's date, but we don't get out of school really until the 18th. You do. I still have to come in on the 21st. So maybe our date should be the 18th. So I'm going to change that to the 18th. Okay. That's our last day of school. So that would make it 166 days. Right. So is that, well, no, that would make it, well, let's just run it and see. Yeah, so 82 days, 82 days of summer. So let's count them and see if that's correct. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so 12 days in June. Plus 31 is 43. Plus 31 is 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. And that's what we got in our answer, 82. So we just verified, kind of. We haven't done a lot of extensive testing, but it looks like our days between function is working. So we have 82 days of no school. This you're going to summer school, I guess, but 82 days of no school, and then we're back again in the fall. So this date class is actually useful. You can actually use it for things. If you wanted to, say you wanted to enhance this date class a little bit, what would be cool is you could do this. Let me, I think I stated that here. Let me go back to our daily plan so I don't forget anything. There's our plan. So we just finished days between. So create a method that returns the number of days between this date and another date in the same year. Here's the extra credit though. Extra credit if you can make it work in 2 different years. Yikes. So I would say if you can make it work anywhere from January 1st, 1900 to now, then you could figure out how many days old you are. If you could figure that out. So if you're looking for something to do just for fun, how would you change the day class to figure out the number of days you even all the way up to January 1st, 1900. And that'll get you extra credit. All right, so that's enough about dates. I think we're done with the date class. I think you should now know everything you need, now have everything you need to complete this date class, and then all the tests here should be working. Now, I still have a few problems, right? Because I don't want to show you all the code. I want you to do some of it on your own. So some of this I just haven't coded, like for June. I've done January and February, and that's all for most of them. But all of these tests need to come up positive or work like they should, given the dates that you put in. And then we have a functioning date class. All right. So now we're going to switch gears and take a look at the study guide then for the chapter test that's going to happen tomorrow, our last day of school. Now, what I would suggest is to make a copy of it like I'm doing now. Just make a copy and then you can type in your copy. Ugh, I hate this. I don't want to do that. All right, so I'm editing the copy now. And we're just going to write in the things you need to know. So if statements, you need to know the syntax of an if statement. So you would say if, then some kind of conditional expression. So you start with if, and then a conditional expression is in the parentheses. You know, I is less than or equal to 5. And then you would have the body of your if statement. So you would do something. I'll just put it as a comment. Do something. If something's true, otherwise, yeah, I saw that, Caden. That's true. Then you would say else, and then you do something else, right? But it's good practice, and we've talked about this, is even if you only have one thing to do, just do something. It's good practice to put in a curly brace and then a closing curly brace for each of these parts of the if statement, right? That's typically how I do it. I like my curly braces to line up vertically so you can see the partner to it or the pair for that curly brace. So a lot of people put it out here. The compiler doesn't care, but sometimes people forget it here, but put the closing one here, and then you can't see it, and it's really hard to debug. So I suggest that you put it on the next line. It takes more screen space, so that's why people don't like it. It's an extra line, an empty line of nothing other than the curly brace, but it's kind of up to you. It just depends on the style guidelines of where you're working. They're usually a rule. They say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Everybody's got to do it this way. And then you do it that way. So that's the curly brace layout. It should be something like that in an if statement. Symbols used for block statements. Remember the symbols to create a block of statements. Do something else. And then here, do even more. So you had lots to do in that else part. Then it's imperative that you actually put in the curly braces. So how do you create a block statement? Again, it's just an open curly brace and a closed curly brace. Okay. Here are the relational operators. You need to know their names. That's the equality operator, the inequality operator, the less than or equal operator, greater than or equal to, less than, greater than. How do you compare numbers? Well, in conditional expressions, you could say if x, let's say, is an integer, is greater than or equal to 100, that'd be one way to compare them. That's if you're doing integers. But remember, with floating point numbers, you're never going to get, or you're rarely going to get an exact match between two floating point numbers. So remember that for floating point numbers, you would say, so maybe y is a double, is y is you wouldn't say equals 100.0, let's say. Because that might not happen. You might be really close to 100. You might be 99.999999999. It's still not 100, and it's still not going to go in. So there is a section in the book, if you read in the chapter how to compare floating point numbers, it's something to do with this constant called epsilon. If the difference is less than epsilon, then you can basically assume that they're the same thing. But you have to look at that code in the book. I'm not going to go over that here. We've gone over it in the slides. We've gone over it in the book. But I would say just take a look at the book, because it's a little bit involved. Do not use the equality operator when comparing strings and other objects. So objects, you don't use the equality operator unless you're trying to see if these two object references are pointing to the same place, which is not typically what you want. Yeah, you always want to use the equals operator, like strings has. Now, not every object, not every class provides an equals operator, right? So you have to take a look to see if there is an equals one. But for strings, there is one. There's equals, and then there's also equals ignore case if you don't care about the capitalization. All you care about is the letters. What does null mean, and when is it used? Well, null is used. It is used for object variables that do not yet refer to anything in memory. Okay, they're basically pointing to nothing. There's no slot in memory for that object yet, but it is a variable that can reference an object. It just hasn't been set yet. So that's what null means. Two-way branching, our ways of two-way branching, we're just using if statements. There is one other way to do it, to do a two-way branch, but it's really obscure and hardly anyone ever uses it, so I rarely teach it. But it's here. If you want to look it up, you can look it up. But if is about the only way to do two-way branching other than this really strange way. And then multi-way branching, you can do chained else ifs. So if, else if, and then the final one, you can have as many of these else ifs as you want, depending on how many different directions you want to go. But the last one should always just be an else. Okay, that's the structure. Another way you can do it is you can use a switch statement. Remember, we use a switch statement on a lot of the functions or a lot of the methods in the date class. So take a look in the date class. The default case should always be included to handle cases that you do not expect. Always assume that somehow bad data is going to get into your switch statement, right? So, so you should put a default case in your switch statement to catch those things, catch those errors, and maybe raise a red flag and say, hey, this doesn't make sense. Stop the program. It's bad, right? So that's the switch statement. So two ways of doing multi-way branching: switch statements and if chained else ifs. Boolean data type holds only one of two values, either true or false. Now, there's operators that go with the Boolean data type. There's the AND operator, which is 2 ampersands. The OR operator, which is 2 pipe symbols, which is right above the enter key shifted. And then the not symbol is just an exclamation point. This is the hard part on the test. Know how to evaluate conditional expressions containing both logical and relational operators. So here in English, we're saying, is X equal to 5? And does the string S equal hello? If both of those are true, then you'll get a true. If both of those are false, you'll get a false. Because this is the AND operator. The only way you get true out of an AND operator, both sides are true. Now, if it was OR there, then either one or the other or both could be true, and you still get true. The only way to get a false from an OR operator is if both sides are false. And then the not operator just inverts whatever it gets. So if it was true, now it's false. If it was false, now it's true. Okay? So those are the operators you need to know. And you'll need to know these are relational operators. So I'll give you some values, and you're going to have to evaluate these expressions and tell me whether they're true or false based on what you know. I'll give you the value of X. I'll give you the value of S. But you have to figure out whether this expression is evaluates to true or false. That's it. That's the test. Okay. And there's your study guide for it. All right. So going back then, tomorrow's the day of the test. So you need to take that tomorrow. I want to get these all graded today, or yeah, tomorrow once I open it up. And then let's look at assignments. What assignments have I opened it up till the end of the term? So I've moved the due dates on some of these. So starting with Mad Libs, I've moved all of them to June 20th. See that? So Mad Libs, graphical Mad Libs, leap year, and the day class. All those four, you can turn those in all the way up until Sunday night. Now, again, if you can get them done sooner, I would really appreciate it. It will help me not have to grade so much on Monday morning. And then another concession I'm making is that if you've done one of the Mad Libs, you don't have to do the other one. You'll get credit for both of them. Okay. So one or the other doesn't matter. You'll get credit for both. So if you're looking to save a little time and you've got one of them done, you can skip the other one and work on this one. Now, this one, this leap year method, is already in the day class. So again, if you do the date class, then that takes care of the leap year method. It doesn't go the other way. If you just do the leap year method and you don't do the day class, no, that doesn't cover the whole day class. But the leap year method is in the day class. So if you do the day class, you have this one covered too. So don't do this separately. Do it within the day class. The day class has a lot more weight in synergy, I think. Well, maybe not. No, that's a different class. I might make it hit 2 learning targets rather than just one, because that's kind of our summative assessment. So if you were going to skip one, I wouldn't skip the date class. That'd be the one to do because it's going to hit multiple learning targets, not just